come to the fresh mind and remind again and again. Talking about reminding, this is the most important part of it. And setting up is the best way to remind. Remind ourselves. Our mind is so naive and a little fragile plant. We need a lot of reminder. How about just 1 minute come to settle, trust in our true nature. In the Mahamudra journey, we are talking about this surrender based on the openness and the confidence in one's own true nature. Nothing missing. You don't need to change it in this way or that way. Ultimately, you just need to recognize it and maintain it. That's a practice. In that relatively calm, quiet, luminous mind, see if you can invite the felt sense of your refuge, shelter, where you go for shelter or refuge or take refuge in when you are happy, when you are sad, when you are in trouble, when you want to ask something desperately, which I used to do when I was a girl, all mundane things. Or when I was very sad, I went to the refuge shrine in front of the Buddhist temple, I cry. When I'm happy, I go there and report. Thank you. My dream came true, thanks to you. So where would you go for refuge? We've been taking refuge in many, many things. Mother, of course, when I was a child, friends, relationships, teacher, even your ultimate partner, finally you found. All are conditioned, regardless of appearance. Feels good to be with him or her, or this relationship or that relationship. But those are not the ultimate refuge. That's what the Buddhist teaching is telling us. Then what's the ultimate refuge? Who and what you truly are. That's the ultimate refuge. We take refuge in order to unveil that you are already that who and what you are, or dust off the whatever in a way of the manifesting. We practice. Then one of the practice, beautiful practice, is this shrine setup and daily practice. This becomes like a framework of your life, so to speak. Set up in the morning and take down in the evening. And then between the morning and evening, whatever you do, whenever you take a drink, you offer, first time offer. Like a guest bring the candy or something as a gift. Instead of just open up and eat, bring it, offer to the shrine first, then take down. That's what in Japan, I don't know nowadays, custom is like that. Whenever we receive something gift, first thing we offer is to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha on the shrine. Then eventually we open up because it's already blessed. And we consider that whatever we offered is blessed or consecrated. It has a power, then eat, then more delicious than just shouting. My point is that this shrine setting up become a beautiful way, skillful means to frame our daily Buddhist life, so to speak, and a good reminder. So that's one thing I want to say. And then unveiling the Buddha nature. Another word, enlightenment, if we want to use that term. So in order to become Buddha, awakened one, you practice this. So in terms of awakening one, there are two things involved. You can say there are many ways to talk about, but in terms of this public teaching, generic Mahayana teaching, so-called accumulation of merit or positive potential, and the so-called cultivation of wisdom of emptiness, and also purification, accumulation as well as purifying. So those two things involved. So setting up the shrine is the method for us to practice all those. Of course, in the West, we have this idea. We don't need to set up like that. That's external things. But I think Buddhism developed, over the course of 2,500 years. It's evolved. But the fundamental idea is this: we go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha. Maybe I don't need to talk about what the Buddha entails or Dharma refuge entail and the Sangha refuge entail this moment. Make sure you understand the meaning of that. Then you can appreciate more this external form or representation of the Buddha and the representation of Dharma, representation of Sangha. You can appreciate. Otherwise, just to become a display in the museum. That's one thing we don't want to do. Really understand the meaning. Then you cultivate the relationship, the more and more. If you understand the deepest meaning and the relation to you, your Buddha nature, then it becomes so meaningful and your practice deepens. And then cultivation of merit, positive potential, purification of negative karma, all things are followed. So that's another purpose. In terms of purpose, then you can focus your mind. If we have a shrine, I was talking about any kind of occasion. I went to the shrine I think as a child, unconsciously or consciously, I knew in front of the shrine, I have to be, not to behave, but somehow focus. My mind is focused instead of sitting on a couch in front of the TV, more sacred space, I felt. So that's important. Cultivate your mind, calm mind, and remind you of your Buddhist practice daily. They invoke or honor the Buddhas and remind yourself of enlightened quality within you, already you have, or you want to develop. So you can recognize you already have it, seed is there, but at the same time cultivate. So those things we do. Then of course, faith and devotion, those are amazing power. I don't know, those of you who have been practicing, notice without the devotion and the faith, this journey is almost impossible, so difficult, because this ego, small ego self is in a way. If we can let go of that, then surrender, I was inviting you to connect this surrendering or letting go of this small self, then filled with the devotion or this emotional connection to something bigger than you think you are. That really helps escalate this process. It's become a joyful journey. It's not a torturing, effortful journey. Otherwise, very difficult. And I think you have to quit. Why I'm doing this? There are lots of other fun things I can do. Lots of my neighbors doing, my partner, my families are doing other things. Why I have to practice every day this way? Anyway, so cultivation of faith and devotions in relation to Buddhist shrine. I'm just gonna go into the main things. My altar, simplest setting. There are many levels, simplest one, medium one, and the most elaborated one you can see in Tibetan shrine. During the Losao, New Year time, they put lots of offering and this and that. So I made it very simplest one. But most important thing is a representation. You need to have 3 things required. I was talking about the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha, right? Dharma refuge is the main thing. What's the Dharma refuge entails? What's that mean? Dharma refuge is the truth. Actually, what you come to know true. But the Buddha's realization and the path to reach that realization. So that's the basis of Dharma. That's the most important thing. So that's one represented by text. But in terms of representation, we use the text. This is the second level. You can do the 3 levels. That's the maybe quite an elaborated one. So this one is kind of medium range. First one is this one, Dharma refuge. I put this Tibetan text, but your case maybe books, especially something significant. If you have a Lamrim Chenmo, the great exposition of the graduate path awakening, Lama Tsongkhapa's book, then that's good, wrapped with some nice cloth, fabric. Doesn't need to be in a Tibetan way, but basically idea is respect, not just a bare book, just bam, just cover something nice, use consider nice, then clean, then put on the left side like this. So usually the important one, that's the most important. So let's put the left. Then in the center is a Buddha, Buddha's body, which is in the either statue, Shakyamuni's statue, or if you don't have a Shakyamuni's statue, just a picture like this. This is the Shakyamuni Buddha, because he is our co-founder, right? Shakyamuni Buddha's picture put in a frame or something, then put in a center. My case, I put Lama Tsongkhapa in there, but the Lama Tsongkhapa is representing all the gurus and the Buddha. So in the center, like this, either you can put the picture or a tanka. If you have a tanka, is a hanging scroll according to Tibetan tradition. If you have a generic like a Shakyamuni Buddha's tanka, you can put that. Okay, so that's the second thing, right? Text representing the Buddha's speech, then statue or tanka or painting representing Buddha's body. Then now Buddha's mind. This is a stupa, it's called a stupa. So you don't need to be this kind of miniature stupa. You can print out a print. I don't have the print, but you can Google it, you can have a nice print, then put in a frame, then put those three things. So left is the scripture, middle is the Shakyamuni Buddha, or Lama Tsongkhapa in our tradition, you can do that. Or the generic one is a Shakyamuni Buddha. Then right is a stupa. So Buddha's speech, scripture, this is the Dharma refuge, most important one. The middle, Buddha's body, or Buddha's statue or tanka. And then Buddha's mind, stupa, or picture of stupa. Those three things you can say required. Even rest of that may not be available. In this simplest version here, I put my teacher's picture and His Holiness, especially in terms of a generic one, maybe His Holiness Dalai Lama's picture or somebody really inspire you, then put here. This is the simplest. I have a few other things, but that's the minimum things. So that's the second level, right? So those are the object of refuge. Then now offering, the bottom or lowest shelf is for offering, water bowl. In our tradition, we use 7 water bowl. Some tradition use the 8 water bowl. Why we use water? Because the water is available, right? Unless you are in the middle of desert and water is very precious. So we use water to really let go of this miserliness or like a worry about those things, because this is about training our mind. So if our mind is influenced by desire or grasping or pride or something, showing off to other people, my friends is visiting, so I'm going to do nice setup or something. If you have that sort of mind, then that's the influence. That's not the good motivation. There's a story in Lamrim teaching. One monk, Ben, he was doing this one. Then he realized he was setting up nicely in order to show off how great he is in terms of practice. And then he realized, then he threw the ashes to the shrine. So watch out your motivation. But in terms of putting water, then you don't need to worry much about it. Like every morning, get the water, fresh, then take it down in the evening. That's what we do. Today, I'm gonna show you how to do that one as well. So I put the 2 rows, right? So you don't need to do 2 rows, just one fast 7 water bowl offering like this. So the reason I did 2 rows, that's also one custom. In tantric practice, so-called self-generation, left to right, then the second row, close to the object of the refuge or the shrine is you can go the right to left in terms of me facing. Yes.
Yes, I'm just wondering about the material that you use for the bowls. Sometimes there's copper bowls, you have glass bowls there.
If you have a copper bowl like this, you can use that. That Tibetan style used to use all the time, this one. But in terms of cleaning, I notice difficult. Sometimes it easily kind of gets funky because the idea is to keep it very clean. That's like a mind. Glass bowl, I notice nowadays also Tibetan people use even in a big temple, they started to use, not all, but this kind of little balls. Yeah, so that's just my recommendation or my idea. Easy to clean, so you can stack like this. And also this had a size, bigger one, small. This is a smaller one because I don't have a space. But if you have a big shrine or something, you can do bigger offering bowl. These are not expensive. So now I will show you how to go about it because I already set up, right? So now let's pretend this is the evening. Let's forget about the second row for now. Just you are using the simplest version. 3 object representation up there. If you don't have a 2 level, just 1 level. Front is the water balls, then inside or deep there is the 3 representation. Okay, does that make sense? You can use any pictures, like those plastic one or, whatever you have, but make it just use for this one. Not to use this one for, to treating a guest or nothing like that. Everything is for this one. These towels and all these things, especially for dedicated to the shrine setup. I will do after this how to go about in the morning. Let's pretend this is evening. So when I set up, I went from left to right. So water for drinking, water for washing feet, flower, incense, light, perfume, and food. Okay. So now we're going to do opposite. Like a chalk, when we do the remainder, collecting the chalk, we do the opposite way, right? From the backside, something like that. So we dump in here, just one by one dump. So we have to wipe this one, but for now, just take it down, dump one by one. Thinking about, thank you so much. Today I had no major things. No, thank you for protecting my life. And then, so now I'm gonna wipe this one by one. So you can do like this. So this one is still wet. Traditionally, we never put the empty one like this, empty glass to the top. Tibetan have, not only Tibetan, Asian have a lot of those kind of karmic, what you call, not superstitious, but lots of things we think. So just wipe, then just kind of putting down, setting up for next morning. Now evening, right? So clean up, you can do like this to dry, just stack like one by one. See how clean it is? So I'm just cleaning up here. Then the next morning, I wake up completely dried. So now this done, right? Then this water, you don't dump into the sink or garbage bin or whatever, put in a plant or clean places. Then next morning, again, put the clean water. If you keep in the water like this, then reflection of the water, then spirit get kind of disturbed or something. My case, just evening, whenever convenient, I put down. Then after you finish the evening practice and dedicate, then put it down. Now let's pretend sleep. Then wake up, fasting wake up, then they do this one. So now this is supposed to be all dry up, right? So now see if we can stack. So how to put the water bowl too? Okay, sometimes people put very randomly, but I was taught one barley grain between the 2 water bowl. Not too far, not too close, not touching. If it's too far, that means you're going to be away from teacher. You're going to have like a karmic consequence of being away from teacher. Then if touching, then you lose wisdom. You're not going to come to realization of wisdom of emptiness or something like that. So just a little tiny grain, 1 grain between 2 water ball. But thing is, those things, when we do, we get more faster and faster, but very nice, mindfully going like this. Of course, morning, you can wipe 1 by 1 again. Then you can do, but just set up water bowl like this, really calming our mind, doing one part of our routine, become a habit. See how then lined up, one lined up, then all these things. Then now let's pretend this is the clean water. I just put there. So now start from the left. We fill up the left one completely here, all the way to, this is the tiny water ball, so easy. So can you see, I filled up all the way to the close to the top, but not to fill up all the way up because otherwise overflow. Then just put in there almost everything, but leave a little bit here. Can you see? Almost everything a little bit here. This one's more, this one tiny bit. Then this goes into the first one, water for drinking. Then now pick up the third one. Then this one fill up. Then this one, this goes the second one, water for washing feet. Then basically we go for more, but leave a tiny bit. Then this is the flower. Then pour more. Then leave a tiny bit. This one is incense. Then pour almost everything, but leave a tiny bit. Then this is aroke light, candle light. Then almost everything. Then put. Then that's the last one. Then so in other words, all are kind of filled. Part of the water which I put in the first water bowl. So almost evenly distributed. Then now we just need to replenish all the way. This also, you don't say, I said all the way, but make sure 1 body grains from the top. So not too much, not completely filled up or not quite raw. So just tiny body. It seems very picky, but that's the thing. That's why you are here. I want you to be picky about this. Then whenever we offer, we use both hands, right? That's kind of for us common sense. But so of course, if you want to use the saffron water, you can do that, but that's not necessarily. So this is the thing. So this one you can wherever you want to store. So that's the kind of routine. After this, then you prostrate 3 times. You can recite the mantra, Shakyamuni's mantra, or whatever you need to recite. Then maybe after that, sit down and do a 6-session Guru Yoga, those of you who have tantric commitment, and so forth. I'm sure there are lots more to this, but so second row, if those of you, if you want to do, you don't need to do it. But if you want to do the specific way, this way I did, this one goes to the right to left in terms of front generation. Water for drinking, water for washing feet, and the flower. You can put the flower, real flower in the water, or dry flower like I'm doing. And the incense, you can put the incense whatever way, nicely, neatly. Then aroke is the candle. I use electric candle. Then perfume. I put something like that too. I use here, in this case, water, maybe saffron water, or if you have a little nice perfume or something, put a little drop, or you can put something like this. Then in terms of food offering, New Day, last one, I put the oranges, but you can put the dry candies, wrapped cookies or whatever, convenient, neatly, nicely. So that's basically it. So first one, the water, right? So obviously water. So
Yeah.
put the water. Then
Yeah.
third one, this is the option. Either put the water and the flower, right? This is the flower offering. Water and the actual flower.
Yeah.
And the real flower. But you have to pay attention, they punish you because always keep fresh flowers. But this one's the dry flowers.
So you have that in some sand or?
Traditionally, we put some white
Ah,
rice like
okay.
this. You don't need to do second row, but initially might fun to do that too. Yeah, then reminding you, which ones. There are lots of Tibetan tradition. We have lots of options. It depends of if you have a separate room, like a shrine, dedicated shrine room, that's great. But very small space, then the same as a bedroom or something like that. So it doesn't matter wherever good corner. Usually, if door is out there, it's nice to do the deepest or the farthest from the door.
The second row that we really put the rice and the incense, do we clean them up?
Yeah, this also cleans just as I did. So those water part, this from the backward. So this
Right.
one clean, this one clean, this one clean. But this
Oh.
one you don't clean every day, like flowers, rice. This one stay here. So these are basic offering, minimum offering, water, bowl. You can elaborate. You can put the mandala like I did, actual candle, and so forth. Then one thing again, height. Pay attention to height. For me, this is too low, but that's the only table I have. So, but the idea is more like high, go up high. So this is about the hierarchy in your realization. So if we have a 3 rows, like if you are using the bookshelf or the altar, then highest level, I put all the text, Buddhist text. If you have a 3 rows, in the top, you put all the Buddhist text. That's the representing the realization. Then the second row, this one. Then the third row, this one. Then if you don't have a third row, then put the text in here.
With the fabric, the coverings that you're using, the beautiful fabrics that you have there, does it matter with colors or?
Doesn't matter. You don't need to use those things, but make it pretty special, something special. If I'm sure you know how to do it. Something feels. Idea is when look at the shrine, something alive, your experience alive in our heart. When you look at the beauty, then beauty alive in our heart, something like that. So make it really beautiful and special. Yeah, we are inviting all the special guests every day. So make it special.
And you have your bell and a vajra right at the end?
Yeah, you don't need to do that one. But so sometimes people put the conch, then put the rice, then put the conch shell and put on there. That's also representing the sound.
I'm also noticing, like, I have a shrine that I have with already all these things that I've collected that I love, and I'm already feeling the pain.
No, you don't need to destroy that. You can put it in the side or something.
Okay.
You can combine. Then you can bring it to this kind of in addition to that.
But I also appreciate the simplicity and that's the busyness of my mind, all these things, and then bringing it to something very simple and open is a good thing too.
Yeah, so this might be the kind of opportunity again, what's important.
When we have 5 dakinis to offer now, if space is a problem, can I set up a separate shrine altar to offer to the 5 dakinis? Because my main one is so full.
Yeah, so just have to be creative, simplest one here. So then especially if you're devoting a certain period of time to certain deity, then put the 5 dakinis on the shrine as well. Like for example, my case, it's changed. When I practice certain things, I put behind that tanka, or now Vajrasattva practice is coming up, right? Retreat is coming up. I can hang the Vajrasattva tanka, something like that. So focusing on the addition to essence is the same, no? But
Yeah.
I think those things that helps, especially for novice or beginners. And if you are starting the new practice, then it's nice to put the deity's picture, just one picture, reminding you. If you have a teacher, pictures of teacher, important.
Yeah.
Take your time, everybody. Enjoy this process. Just take a moment to rest just for a few minutes. So again, see if you can connect to this inner refuge, which does not disappoint you. Always available, always here for us. When I go for refuge, I make offering to him, to her. I prostrate her, him. So I hope this setting up shrine, Tibetan altar, become your journey, beautiful journey to unveil your inner refuge.